So let's see today's lovely recipe. Now here I've taken 1 cup of rice, washed it really well and soaked it in 3 cups of water for 5 hours. I'm using regular kolam rice, you can use even Goa rice. Now after 5 hours we're going to drain all the water and we're going to transfer the rice to a mixer jar. To that I'm going to add 3/4 cup of grated coconut, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of sugar, and 1/4 cup of water, and we're going to grind this to a coarse paste. We don't want it to be a very fine paste but a coarse paste like this. Now I'm going to heat a non-stick pan and I'm just going to gently brush it with a little bit of ghee. You can also use oil. Now see that your pan is nice and hot, and now we're going to pour 4 teaspoons of the mixture in the center. And then you're just going to cover this for about half a minute and cook it on a medium flame. After half a minute, you will see some bubbles or holes or some perforations on the top. That means our Coelho Oreo is already ready, but we're just going to cook it for 1 minute. And after 1 minute, just loosen the edges and transfer it to a plate. We're not going to turn it over and cook it on the other side. We're going to continue doing this with the rest of the batter. So with this amount of batter, I got 4 Coelho Oreos. These are really delicious. They can be had all by themselves. But I'm going to show you this special sauce or dip which goes fantastically well with it, and this is how it is traditionally eaten. So now in the same pan, I'm going to heat the pan and add half a cup of grated Goa jaggery. Now if you don't have Goa jaggery, you can use regular jaggery. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of water and I'm going to dissolve all of the jaggery really well. We don't want any granules, but we want a very smooth syrup. So take your time with stirring it. Now to add more flavor, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of cardamom powder or elaichi powder. So I've used 2 cardamoms. Mix all of that well. And then I'm just going to add half a cup of coconut milk. Stir all of this really well, and I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon or 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Stir all of this really well for a whole minute till it thickens. Now our mixture is almost ready. Let it come to a boil and then put it off and let it completely cool to room temperature. Once it is cooled down, you're just going to transfer it to a small bowl or a cup. And our Coelho Oreos are ready. Our lovely sauce is ready. So now I'll show you how we're going to enjoy this. So just take a small bit of the Coelho Oreo and dip it into this lovely sauce and enjoy it. So do give this recipe a try, guys, and I'll catch you soon in my next video. Bye. friends, today's lovely Goan balchao recipe is one of my mom's recipes, and I always refer to her cooking books, and she has such an array of recipes. So today we're going to make this beautiful and delicious prawn balchao. So let's get started. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to show you how to devein prawns. I've got many requests from the beginners as to Akshata, how do we devein prawns? Can you make a video? So I am going to include that at the end of this video. So let's start with today's lovely balchao recipe, and it has a few ingredients, guys. So let's go through the ingredients. Now here I have some that prawns that I've deveined and I've washed them really well. It's very important to clean prawns really well and devein them. So here I have about half a cup of deveined prawns. I have 2 medium onions which I've chopped really fine. These are about 7 Kashmiri red chilies, 2 light green chilies which I've slit and then cut them into half, about 7 to 8 curry leaves. Now curry leaves are optional, but I love the flavor of curry leaves in this balchao. Half an inch of ginger and 10 cloves of garlic, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 6 teaspoons of vinegar. Now you can use white vinegar, you can use the Goa vinegar, salt to taste. Here I have 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds and half a teaspoon each of peppercorns and turmeric powder, which is also called haldi. So these are the only ingredients we're going to be requiring. So first I'm going to just take my mixer jar and I'm going to break the red chilies, take off the tip of the red chilies, or the stalk rather, and I'm just going to put the red chilies into my mixer jar. Now, it's also a good thing that you wash your Kashmiri chilies or dried red chilies, wipe them dry and then add them to the mixer jar. Now, I'm going to add my cumin and peppercorns to the mixer jar. Now, you can add your turmeric powder at this point too, but I don't like to add the turmeric or the haldi powder to my mixer jar because that discolors the lid of the mixer. So I always add the haldi powder or the turmeric at the end after the paste is done. Now I'm going to add my garlic and I'm just going to chop the ginger up into finer pieces or smaller pieces. That makes it easy to grind. And then I'm going to add only half the quantity of the vinegar, grind it to a little coarse paste. And once the coarse paste is done, I'm going to add the remaining vinegar and grind it to a very smooth paste. So this is the consistency we're looking for. It's a thick, yet it's a smooth paste. So you see that all the chili flakes and everything is nicely ground. So now at this point, I've transferred it to a small bowl and I'm adding the turmeric powder in now. And I am going to mix the turmeric powder into the paste really well. So this this tip I've carried on from my dad. He used to always say, never add haldi into your mixer pot because it becomes all yellow and doesn't even, the lid looks really, yellow and not really nice to look at. So I follow that tip even till today. Okay, so now I've taken a pan and I'm just going to heat my pan up and now I'm going to add 3/4 cup of oil. Now because this is a pickle and we want the shelf life to be longer, so we're going to add a little extra oil, and also when there's not going to be a drop of water in this recipe. That's why I said when you're washing your dried chilies, ensure that you wipe them completely dry before adding them to the mixer pot. So once my oil is nice and hot, I'm going to add the onions and I'm going to fry the onions really, really well. So take your time with this recipe. See that the onions are nicely fried and they should, turn into a translucent color, or they should turn translucent rather. So just fry them for about a whole minute or so till they start to look like this. Now once the onions are done, we're going to throw in the chilies and slit the chilies up. That way the flavor of the chilies, it enhances the flavor and you actually get the flavor of the chilies in this balcha, which is very important. So slit the chilies, break them up into half and then fry the chilies also very well. So now I'm going to add my fresh curry leaves. Fry the curry leaves. Like I said, the curry leaves are completely optional, but I love adding them because they really elevate the taste of this dish. So you can add them or you can skip it. It's all your choice. But I like the flavor of these curry leaves in this balchao, and my mom's recipe says to add it, so I am going to add it. So now I'm going to add my ground paste. Like you can see, it's a thick paste. There's no water. It's not watery. There's not extra vinegar because we don't want it to be very sour. So 6 teaspoons is just enough. And now the most important part is to fry the masala or the paste that we ground really, really well. So you'll get this beautiful dark red color. Now we're going to add salt to taste. Always go with a little less salt initially and then add it later. So now I'm going to add the sugar, because we've added vinegar, so sugar kind of balances the taste of the dish. And now before you add the prawns, just taste this. Take a little bit of it and let it cool down, and then taste it to see whether you need to add any more salt, whether you need to add more sugar, vinegar. So do a taste test, and only after that you add the prawns. Now mix the prawns in well. Be gentle so that they don't break, but ensure that the prawns are nicely cooked in this masala. So continuously stir and let the prawns get nicely cooked. You cannot have raw prawns in this, so cook it very well. And of course, the heat of the masala will cook the prawns. Prawns don't take a lot of time to cook. So just keep stirring for about 2 to 3 minutes and fry everything really, really well. So this bal chow, for those of you who don't know what bal chow is, it's a pickle made with prawns and this masala paste. And it's just like any other pickle, you can store it in a nice clean jar like I'll show you, and it has a very long shelf life. So now I'm just checking to see whether the prawn is done, and it is done. So now all we have to do is just cook it or uncovered for another 5 minutes. So this is a pickle kind of a dish, a bal chow, a spicy pickle, and it really goes well with any meal. And especially in the monsoons, when fish is not that easily available, people used to make this, especially in the olden days, and keep it as so they have some kind of fish available to eat at the house. Same with dried fish, etc. So our prawn balcha is ready. Now let it cool completely, and you have to have the oil element, because that is a preservative, and it keeps the shelf life longer. You don't need to refrigerate it immediately. Maybe after a day or two you can put it in your refrigerator. So I put it in a clean dry jar, and always ensure that the oil is always above the rest of the the whole balcha. And yeah, that's it. So now for those of you who want to see how to devein prawns, so here I got about, I don't know, maybe half a kilo of prawns. I used it to make some prawn pulao, and we made some prawn curry, Goan prawn curry. All recipes are there on my channel. I'll leave the links below. So now what you do is you wash the prawn. Now you take a very sharp knife and you just cut it at the back of the prawn like this completely. And then you will see that there's a kind of a vein which has, it's basically the intestine of the prawn. And that is very important that you take it all out. So, all the black stuff, sometimes it comes out in parts. Sometimes you can pull out the whole thread, as you'll see, and then wash it really well, after you cut it up, and keep it on a dry plate. That's what I just did. I got a plate just behind my camera stand and I'm putting it over there. So take a sharp knife, cut it all the way through, right up to the end, and then just pull out that vein. So sometimes you'll see it comes all together into one shot, or sometimes it just breaks up. So you ensure that the entire thing is removed. But it's very important that you devein prawns and wash prawns really well before you use them for any recipe. Otherwise, you'll end up with a very bad tummy ache and other fiascos. So better to be safe and always do this. So take your time, with the prawns, and clean them really, really well. Also, when you're buying prawns, when the prawns are really nice and fresh, you will not get any bad odor from the prawns. Plus, they should be nice and firm. They shouldn't look limpy. They should be very, very firm. So, if you take into account all these things when you're buying prawns, they don't have any kind of stench. They should be really fresh, and they should look nice and fresh and firm. So some of them did come out in one shot, like one entire vein or intestine came out together, or sometimes they came out in parts. But the main thing is ensure that they are all nice and clean. So that day we had this lovely prawn bal chow. Then I made sorak. Then we had surmai fry, which is my favorite, and some lovely rice. So it was a real good meal. So I thought I'd share this prawn bal chow recipe with you, so you all can make it. Okay, so here you can see that it almost came out in one go. And then just wash it under running water and keep it aside in a dry plate. And then after that, ensure that all the water of the prawns come away. So always keep your plate in which you keep the prawns on a little slant so that all the water goes away. So friends, let's see how to prepare this kanji or pears. It's very simple and it gets ready also very fast. So now I have taken about 1 cup of rice. This will be sufficient for about 4 people. And I've washed it thrice under running water, and I've put double the quantity of water. Now I've brought it to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, I've added some salt to taste. Stir it in so that the salt gets evenly distributed. And now we're just going to lower our flame, and we are going to cook this till the rice is nice and soft. So this has to be, the rice has to be really very, very soft. So we have to keep boiling it on a low to medium flame and keep stirring in between. Keep checking on the rice. The water should not dry up. And if you find that the water has dried up, then you can just add some hot water. Don't add cold water because then the entire consistency will change of the pears. So just add some hot water if you find that the water has dried up. And when you come to know when the pears is ready when you get this thick soupish kind of consistency, where the rice is nice and cooked, and then you can just serve this with some pickle. Now I have the Miskut pickle which I had uploaded on my channel. I'll leave a link below. I have other pickle recipes also, like Tondli pickle or Tendli pickle and brinjal pickle. I'll upload those too. So now here I've heated up 1 tablespoon of oil in a pan. Now I've washed the pumpkin really well. It's about quarter kilo or 250 grams. Peeled it and cut it into small cubes, even size cubes like this. That way it evenly cooks and cooks easily and quicker. Now to the hot oil I'm going to add half a teaspoon of mustard seeds or mori or rye. Once they begin to pop a bit, I'm going to be adding 1/4 teaspoon of cumin seeds or jeera. Next, I'm going to be adding 1/4 teaspoon of asafoetida or hinga, followed by 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder or haldi. Now this, I've got about 3 dried red chilies which I've cut up into smaller pieces and a few curry leaves, about 5 or 6 curry leaves, and 1/4 teaspoon of methi seeds or fenugreek seeds. Just give this bagar or forti a little bit of a good fry till the chilies fry a bit. Now I'm going to add the cut up pumpkin and just fry it along with the rest of the spices so that they get coated well with the oil and the spices. Now this pumpkin cooks really, really fast and it's really nice and delicious. It's one of my favorite veggies. So now that I've mixed the pumpkin well with the rest of the spices, I'm going to put a lid on it and I'm going to just add some water, about 1/4 cup of water to the lid. And we're going to let this simmer or cook on a very low flame for about 5 minutes. Now after 5 minutes, you'll see that there are some bubbles on the water. So now we're just going to add this hot water to the pumpkin. And this is going to help the pumpkin cook well, and also it's going to give a little bit of a gravy to the pumpkin. It won't be an entirely dry dish, but it won't be a very watery or a dish like a curry. But it'll be a veggie with a little bit of gravy, a thick gravy. And now after adding the water again, I'm going to cover and I'm going to cook this for about 5 minutes till the pumpkin is nice and cooked. So you give it a stir, and then if you try to break up any of the pumpkins with the spoon, it just easily breaks up into 2 pieces. So now we know that we can add a little bit of flavor and spices. So I'm going to start by adding half a teaspoon of red chili powder. This is not a very spicy vegetable. But if you want to make it a little spicy, you can increase the amount of red chili powder. And now I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoon of homemade Goda masala or Kala masala. So I'll leave a link of how I prepare this lovely Goda masala at home. Then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of jaggery or gur. And I'm going to mix everything well. So we're done with adding all of the ingredients except one, which is the garnish, which will come at the fag end of the recipe. And now again I'm going to cover and cook this for 1 minute. Now I've just got to add a little bit of salt, because of course our food doesn't taste nice without salt. So just a little bit of salt to taste. And again mix everything really nicely. And again we're going to cover and cook this for about 2 to 3 minutes, because we want the gravy to be a little bit thick, like you'll see now. And as you can see now, the pumpkin is also very nicely cooked. It's not very mushy, but it's cooked to the right consistency, and you have this little bit of a thick gravy. So this goes very well with some poris or fulkas or chapatis, or even some amti bhat or dal and rice. This is an amazing side dish or a vegetable. And now I'm just going to garnish it with some finely chopped coriander or cilantro. And that's it, guys. Our lal bhoklechi bhaji, as we call it in Marathi, or this lovely pumpkin vegetable, is all ready to enjoy. So do give this a try, and I'll catch you soon.